It is an honor to be here today to talk about one of potentially the most transformational trends we're going to see over the next few years. So I think it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm excited to have a fantastic fireside chat with two experts in this space today. Let's just jump right in. Instead of reading bios, I would love to just throw out an icebreaker question of, tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us about your background, and what made you really passionate about this topic. I'll start with you, Patrick.
Okay, my PhD is in aerospace engineering. I went to Georgia Tech, and when I was working on my graduate work, I had this idea to build a battle simulation that was like a video game. And at the time, AI was kind of new-ish, or it was going through a second renaissance. And the idea behind the concept was to make AI-enabled agents that would play this game against each other. And at the time, the whole idea was actually pretty ridiculous. So fast forward almost 20 years later, AI is suddenly cool again. And so I've been working on various analytic and AI programs through the intelligence community and the defense industry for about 20 years. And then looking at various applications ranging from skepticism with our government clients to kind of a big shift recently into adoption where all of a sudden everybody wants AI, whatever it is, I want it, I have to have it now. And so working with these different agencies and working with our employees on how to implement that at scale.
Awesome. Jim.
Wow, that's a great answer.
I know. And
Actually,
lots of
it was
so
AI
many
generated.
threads that we can pull on too.
Well, about me, I've been involved in recruiting for 20 years. Hard for me to believe. Worked for Microsoft, Siemens, Google. At one point, I was the global head of sourcing and recruiting strategy for Randstad SourceRight. Presently, I'm the editor for SourceCon, which is also a recruiting conference focused on sourcing passive candidates. What interested me the most in AI was that at one of our events, we had a hackathon event where we challenged the humans against the machines, which is how we build it. So we had several recruiters and sourcers hunt down very specific people. And at the time, we had an AI tool also do the same thing. And instead of doing it all at one time, we gave the contest was across a 2-week period to give them plenty of time to find it. And fortunately, we thought, the human beings won. We found the right people. We found the most specific people. It took us a combined 22 hours to do it. So to AI, about 20 seconds, more or less. So we were very excited that we won because we felt that we were safe. But at the same time, we beat a machine that only took a few seconds to do it. And so that really impressed upon us how transformative this technology was. And we really started focusing our content and a lot of our content around AI. And that's sort of developed my interest in it ever since then.
So there's so much discussion going on around AI. Sometimes it's magic pixie dust that we just should sprinkle on things. Sometimes it's something that people are really apprehensive about. A lot of conversations I have are thinking about broader implications, not just on recruitment, but on jobs, which are inextricably linked. I would love to just do a little stage setting before we dig deep into the recruitment aspect of it, and get your thoughts as to when you have conversations on this topic, on AI, what do you tell people it is and it isn't? And when people are asking you about some of the job aspects, and this does tie into recruitment, right? And to recruiters, right? What do you tell people about this technology and the potential on the impact for jobs? And we'll start with you, Jim.
Sure. I say be aware, but don't be afraid. What AI is to me, it's technology that does repetitive tasks for you. It streamlines the process, blah, blah, blah. You've heard that already, right? What AI is not, which I think is very reassuring, is not a replacement for human judgment. No matter how great the tool is, you still need a person overlooking the technology because the technology isn't perfect. It does make mistakes. If you ever use ChatGPT or any other LLM, it's prone to hallucinations, still even now. It's not error-free because of that. It's not 100% bias-free, although some vendors may. Although some people may have you think otherwise. It's only as good as the data that it's trained upon. So I tell people that your jobs are going to change, but they're not going to go away, just maybe the way you think of them. And one example I tend to give around that in conversations is you look at the ATM machines at the bank. When ATMs first came online, a lot of people thought that tellers would just go away, but they're still there. They're just doing different jobs. And I think AI will have the same effect on the recruiting industry. Some things that we definitely won't do anymore, but we'll just do different things.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. About it's not going to take people's jobs completely, but it will change the nature of it. I found the last panel very interesting because it was about like the personal touch in recruiting and be authentic. And I was like, we're going to go up and talk about all the robot stuff. This is awkward. So, there is an element of earlier today there were some comments about people with AI will succeed, and I think that is a general theme. Some people are afraid of it, or they haven't used it, or they go, I don't know what that is. And the tools have become pretty accessible through Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. And I like to tell people, there's a famous example from Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, where he says you become an expert by doing something for 10,000 hours. If you do the math, it's about 5 years of full-time work to become an expert at something. Okay, I don't think you have to use AI for 10,000 hours to become an expert, but I run into a lot of people that were like, I asked ChatGPT a question and I got the answer wrong. I was like, you should probably try 10 more times. And so there is an example where I think people are skeptical. They go, I read this article that it makes stuff up. And you go, you should probably try asking it some more questions because it does do that every so often, but it's right most of the time. It's actually probably a lot smarter than most of us are. So I think that this is really a transformative time for us. And if we think back 20, 30 years, like there were people that said, well, I don't type. I mean, keyboards and typing is not really my thing. And apps. Who needs apps? I don't use apps. What are apps? But this is like the new app. Like this is going to be a very inherent thing. And if you ask any teenager, hey, are you using ChatGPT for your homework? The first going to slink down in their chair, right? And then they're going to admit that's what's going on. So comment in the last panel about, is there anyone under 25? I often make the comment, like one day we'll think about how we used to do things with our meat fingers. And that day is probably maybe 5 or 10 years away, where these tools will become very sophisticated. We have to know how to integrate them into our personal and professional lives.
Can I add on something to that, what he said? Because what you said about the homework resonated with me. I know that there are some recruiters and sources who may be a little adverse to the technology, but there are some out there that are really grabbing hold to it. And I know it because in just candid conversation, don't have any hard data around this. But some recruiters and sourcers who are really good at it are using it to double dip, as we could say it. So imagine that I am working part-time for you, and I'm doing a good job for you, but I'm also doing a great job for her because of the AI tools. I have ChatGPT hooked up to Zapier or some other tool, and I'm fully automating different things. So now I'm getting a double paycheck, but still delivering product to you at the same levels that I've done before. So I know a lot of recruiters and sourcers are taking to heart these tools. They're using these tools. They're doubling their paychecks on the side. So I think in the future, recruiters and sourcers who are so good at these tools will be more efficient, and they'll be able to do more work. So they may be able to command a higher salary over time because they say, look, I can do the work of 2 recruiters.
Absolutely, right? There is a personal touch, but then there's a volume thing.
Yeah.
Right? How do you get through all these applicants and you go, we all have to learn how to use AI to help us with the volume problem, whether you're an intelligence analyst, whether you're doing loan processing, or whether you're doing sourcing.
No, this is getting right into the real opportunities and potential benefits for learning and integrating these technologies into your everyday routines, and the ability to then do more with less, which is really important as we're all working 10 hours a day and squeezing that into an 8-hour time frame. But let's just make sure we're all level set on what we are talking about when we say AI in recruitment. Can you describe a little bit more about what AI in recruitment could entail, the different ways, and you've touched on some of that, in which recruiters and anyone in the HR enterprise could think about how they might leverage some of these tools from the attraction, hiring, onboarding process? And we'll start with you, Patrick.
Okay, I'll give 2 or 3 examples there. One thing that we all have to do is, like, we have requisitions, And sometimes you're like, I have this requisition, it's looking for leaflet and Java and STK, and maybe I don't know what all those things mean, right? I mean, has anybody ever looked at a rec and said, I don't know what all these things mean, but I have to go find this person? Okay, you can also take a stack of resumes and you can go, here are a stack of resumes, match these candidates to this rec, tell me who is best qualified and why they are qualified for that rec. Match it up exactly, build me a table of pros and cons. That is something that ChatGPT can do for you today for $20 a month in about 40 seconds. Okay? You can also say, if you are looking at that rec, I don't understand what this tool is. What are the skills that somebody would need to effectively use this thing that's in that rec? Now, a lot of us would be like, ask the person who posted the rec. Can you explain this to me? But by the way, we're all busy. So AI could potentially help with, I need to understand who I'm trying to recruit, what the key skills would be, and how that would work. Okay, second thing, targeting that person. You can either target the person that you're trying to get, and this is where it sounds like, Pat, did you listen to the last panel? Okay, you can use AI to help write a targeted message to a candidate. Help me write an authentic message to a candidate that's a full stack Java developer. I don't know exactly what that means, but what would make that person excited? Help me target a message to them and what's important. Then, okay, don't just send it. Add your personal touch. Treat that as your first draft. That is a way to get started. Okay, third thing. I did this experiment before coming to this panel. Let's pretend that I work for Booz in Hamilton, which I do, and I'm trying to recruit a candidate from Amazon, which I might be. So I would say, I'm trying to recruit this candidate from Amazon Web Services. How might I do it? ChatGPT would probably tell me, Amazon recently announced a return to office 5-day mandate, and the employees are furious. You work for Booz Allen Hamilton, and they have a generous hybrid work policy and values that are known for. You could highlight these in your pitch to the candidate, and you go, oh, I didn't think about that. That's a really good point. Thanks, ChatGPT. So that's an example of this employee has this skill set. Tell me about the benefits at the company that they work at. It'll go out, read the benefits page, summarize it. Are my benefits better or worse than theirs? Is my salary lower or higher than theirs? These things are in generation 1 today, but within the next 2 or 3 years, this is gonna be what's on your second monitor. You're gonna be going like, and that's how I do my work. I'm doing something over here and I'm like, I need to know about this thing I don't know about. I'm gonna ask the question and it's gonna start generating and then I'm gonna read it and go, I can use that. I'm gonna move it over here to my primary workspace. That is a way that I think our industry can get through some of these very technical, very complicated things at scale. You could be like, which of the resumes in this pile are BS? And tell me why. Okay. What are some things I should watch out for in this interview? Tell me why. Those are all things where it essentially acts as a red team or a second opinion.
I'll add to that too with your candidate assessment. You could, this is something that I've seen people do. Everybody's familiar with like Myers-Briggs, the personality testing? Okay, so there are certain jobs that tend to merge with certain personalities. So if you have a job for a sales and they have to be sort of an outgoing personality, according to Myers-Briggs, their personality type is ENFP or whatever it is, right? So you can ask ChatGPT, okay, write me a letter that will appeal to somebody with this personality type, knowing that this personality type tends to work well with this particular job. So that's another way you can sort of personalize your candidate outreach. To your other point too about reaching out to hiring managers, you could say, okay, these are the resumes that I want to present. Go through them and give me selling points. Why should I pitch this candidate to this manager? What are reasons why somebody would not accept this person? Because you need to know good and bad so you can argue both sides. So those are
it's great. It's great at good and bad, right? If sometimes it hallucinates. So you go ask it a question, then ask it the opposite of the question. Give me the pro and con. Is there anything that I missed? And under the bias, well, I'm sure we're going to talk about bias.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about how you can use that to make sure that you're not introducing bias in the process.
Yeah. One thing I do when I'm looking One thing I do when I'm looking at ChatGPT, looking at the different things, I'll ask ChatGPT, okay, where did you get this information from? Where is the source? Give me the URL, right? And even when you ask it that, sometimes those URLs are fake. That's how you know it's hallucinating, because ChatGPT wants to please you, give you the right answer. So make sure you click the link and see where it actually goes to, because I've seen it on several occasions just make up a URL and it goes nowhere.
So this actually gets right into the heart of the next question, because you're talking about the different ways in which recruiters or people in the HR community could leverage these tools. What does that mean in terms of skills, right? We're all continuous learners. So before we jump to what that means for the candidate, what does that mean for the recruiter in terms of the skill sets that they need to have to best leverage these tools? How skills, given that some of the tasks and their time allocation may evolve, what does that mean for the skills that they'll need to have? And you really raise that question through the idea of prompt engineering and thinking through what a good prompt might be and how to iterate on that. So I'll actually start with you, Jim.
You ever see the movie 2001? I'm dating myself, probably. Right? But there's a famous scene in 2001 where this astronaut is trying to get back into the space station. And he asks Hal, that's the AI in charge of the robotics, open the dock bay doors. And Hal says, don't want to do that. And he says, well, I need to get back in my spaceship so I can go home. And he's arguing back and forth with the artificial intelligence that's running the spaceship. That's essentially prompt engineering in a sense, right? Because you're asking the computer to do something, it doesn't want to do it, or it gives you a different answer than you're expecting. Knowing how to address the different AIs out there there's certainly a skill that recruiters need to have. Secondly, another one to develop for would be critical thinking. A lot of times you can look at a resume and think a person is good for A, B, and C. You ask ChatGPT for his reasons. ChatGPT gives you reasons, and then you have to look at that and say, well, are those good reasons that ChatGPT gave me? I need to look at this a different way. I think I'm getting lost in my thoughts, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. So critical thinking, prompt engineering, other future skills. Actually, I think it would do a company a really good service if they were to train up their employees on interpersonal skills. It's amazing to me that as technology advances, we start to develop technology, use it as a crutch, thinking that it can do everything. I think I was talking with someone earlier about how we'll send out emails to a candidate, get no response. Well, I'll just send out more emails, get no response, and the cycle just continues. Where it would be better use if someone knew how to pick up the phone, talk to someone, connect to someone on a one-on-one basis, develop a relationship with them. That is something, as a matter of a skill that I think is becoming less and less prevalent in our skills today. And someone asked me once, well, how can you develop these interpersonal skills? There's different ways. I'll give sort of 3 examples. One, if somebody wanted to improve the interpersonal skills of, say, salespeople, have them volunteer at a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter. See if they can maintain their level of professionalism dealing with people they normally wouldn't deal with, right? If someone is an executive, have them present to 3rd graders. See if they can keep their attention. Then when they finish the presentation, ask the students, what did that executive talk about? How well did they explain it to you? If you want to develop the interpersonal skills of tech support people, have them go to a senior living facility and train the seniors on how to program a DVR and see how well they can communicate that. Those are things that would benefit the company and them as a worker long term, because technology will keep on improving. But if you rely so much on technology, you're going to lose skills. And I'll stop by saying this. At one point, I knew at least 12 phone numbers top of my head. Now I know maybe 1 or 2, because I've become so used to my iPhone and just saying, call mom or whatever, right? That's an example of becoming so used to technology that I forget how to memorize numbers. And I think that one very real danger of AI is not so much that it'll replace us per se, but more so that we're going to lose the knowledge of how to do something. So imagine becoming so used to your phone having all your numbers, and then your phone is dead, and you're in a different country, and you can't call anybody because you don't know the numbers because your phone is dead. Imagine that happening to recruiting. Long-winded answer, sorry.
I can't wait till we forget how to do stuff. It's gonna be awesome, because I have to remember how to do a lot of stuff. It's gonna be awesome when we don't have to remember how to do anything. Okay, so Jim, I think a great answer on that question, and I do definitely agree with the idea of critical thinking. I believe that's one of the hardest things to teach, but it's something that an individual can practice through exposure and continuous reading and challenging yourself. Diana, you mentioned prompt engineering. That is the correct answer, I think. It's sometimes like an easy answer, like, oh, just prompt engineering. But there are a lot of techniques that are really easy and really helpful. For example, a lot of people that have trouble with generative AI tools, they use a really stupid prompt. They use like a 1-sentence or a 5-word prompt. Here's a really easy one. Pretend you are the world's best recruiter. You've now established a persona. You've asked the AI to take on a persona. You are the world's best recruiter. Recruiting this candidate is the most important thing in your entire career, depends on this recruitment. Write that letter to this candidate. You will get a better answer, guaranteed. If you write a longer prompt, or some people are like kind of giggling at that, it really is true. If you say like, write this at a level that a 5th grader can understand, it will do it. If you say, I am trying to recruit an astrophysicist. Pretend you are an astrophysicist and you've written 10 papers on astrophysics. Help me recruit this astrophysicist. You are my friend and you will help me. It will take on that persona. It's read everything on Reddit, everything on LinkedIn. It's read almost every book that's in the public domain. So you can focus it by saying, take on a persona. And then if you're very specific about what you want, make a table, highlight the pros and cons, give me a bulleted list. Sometimes the prompt that you put in is longer than the answer that you're seeking. And that is the skill that you have to learn with that 10,000 or 100 or 100,000 hours that you're going to do is, for example, to your point, Jim, about it gives you fake URLs. Yeah. So I have a custom instruction. There's a little feature in ChatGPT that's called custom instructions. And I said, I'm an AI researcher with a PhD. If you give me a reference, make sure that it's real and that it's a highly referenced thing. So it will almost never fabricate the highly referenced paper. It'll fabricate the one that only has 1 or 2 references. It'll mess up the generation. But if you ask it for a paper on AI, it will give you the paper, Attention is All You Need, which is the one that started the LLM revolution. It'll give you the exact reference of that paper. So that's one example of prompt engineering. Tell it what you want, tell it how you want to receive it, give it a persona, and the persona is actually the most effective way to get what you need out of that tool.
I like that. Another cheat thing, tangent again, sorry. If you say, respond like an award-winning chief marketing officer, give me a great candidate outreach letter, that kind of thing. Or you can say, I believe this, 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 and this. Is this true or false? And tell me why it's true. And then it'll go into more detail. So those are other ways to sort of hack it too.
And this gets right into another question that I think is burning on everyone's mind from this about bias. And you're using these tools, you are thinking about good prompts to get the best answers. I think there's a shared concern across many communities who are leveraging these tools or see these tools being leveraged on them. How can we ensure fairness? How can we think about or mitigate the risks that are inherent in using these tools more? And I'll start with you, Jim.
An AI tool is only as fair or as biased as the training data it's used on. And in 2018, Amazon did this thing where they wanted to hire the best software developers, as always, they were like everybody else. But they took like a handful or a bunch of resumes from their best workers. They said, okay, these are our people that we think are really, really great. This is the standard. Measure all other resumes going forward based on these, because these people are just knocking it out the park here at Amazon. And they did it for a while. Then somebody says, wow, we've been using this for a couple of years. How come we haven't seen any women? And they looked at the data and said, oh, we only had men from here. And men from these schools, so they only fit a certain demographic. So we're not going to get anybody else because although they do their job really well, the training data just says just men from these certain schools. So they had to sort of scrap it altogether because it wasn't fair. That's just one example. You got to put in there data from different demographics, different demographics, different criteria to keep it fair. Because it's only as good as the data you put in.
Yeah, and Jim, there's an anecdote that goes with that story that said like the #1 thing that would get you hired at Amazon is having the first name Cody. And there's no reference to that. It's an anecdotal story, but it was like, if you're on the men's lacrosse team or your first name is Cody, you'll get hired. And that's an example of bad data. And but by the way, though, people always say the AI is biased. It's the humans that are biased. And when you get the results and you see them, it makes you feel terrible because you realize like that it was me. I was the one that was doing that. That was in here, not inside the computer. So there are a couple ways of mitigating that. It is a problem, and you do have to curate the training data. But going back to some of the examples that I highlighted, one of the ways you can check yourself is you say like, I want to select this candidate. Was there anything in this person's resume or in the interview notes that might have caused me to be biased either for or against them? The AI might come back and say, actually their resume contains the word sorority. Are you sure that you weren't biased against this likely woman? It will do that if you ask it to do so. It will say, this person attended a historically black college and university. Are you sure that you are applying fairness to this candidate? Are you sure that you're not applying your own biases? So that is one example where you can say, hey, check me and check my decision. Review a list of things that are in your database of known cognitive and personal biases and tell me if there's anything that I'm doing incorrectly or improperly. And that sometimes not only will help you with the decision, but it kind of helps you tune up your own judgment. It helps you tune up your way of going through and screening candidates. So that is, I think, one technique there. And then, we've talked a lot about generative AI, tools that are textually based, but there are also AI-based algorithms that incorporate pattern matching, statistics, et cetera. So you can apply the same thing that I just said, like to the math. Is this, look at all the other decisions that we've made. Is this statistically viable? Tell me why or why not. For example, you can look at that when you're doing salary negotiations. This is the salary that I think goes with this position. Numerically, tell me what you think the salary should be based on all the data that you have, based on comps that we have from the internet. If you're connected to your own internal database of salaries, is that the salary that I should be offering this candidate? Why or why not? And the AI might say this person has less years of experience, or it might say you should have offered that person $5,000 more because previously someone with a very similar resume got this offer. Those are things that are really hard for us to remember without having our own biases, but the tools that are in existence today can help us with those decisions.
No, when you said it, it reminded me of this this case study. I believe it was Unilever. Anybody here from Unilever by chance? No? Okay. Well, you don't know if I'm wrong or not. All right. So if I remember the case study correctly, so Unilever hired, I think, 500 students in a year with this process. They put out this marketing ad, which was, what kind of madman are you, or some kind of marketing thing, right? So people who were interested responded to the ad. The ad sent them to another site, which was powered by this app called Pymetrics, which does online gaming, right? Gaming. So you go there, you play the different games. Each game is like a minute or 2 minutes, whatever. Basically what it's doing is assessing your skill to do certain parts of the job. You think you're playing a game, but it's assessing you for a job. All right. Then once you've played the game, the system will say, okay, these people played the game and they scored the highest. Give me the top 10% of people who scored the highest. Send them over here to this higher view automated interview. So the people go to the higher view automated interview, they answer the questions, the AI scans their faces or reactions, sort of scores them on how they interviewed. And then people who scored the highest from that are sent to the hiring manager. So, okay, I like these people based on how they've already proven that they can do the job, based on how they played the game and how they went through the higher view interview. Let me invite them over to a hiring event. So a bunch of people come to a hiring event, and then they're hired on the spot after a day of, this is what the company is like, this is our culture, wonderful, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we're going to extend offers to you before you leave, so you know before you left whether you were hired or not, based on how you got an offer. So that's the way when you're saying that about fairness and ethics and bias and whatnot. You're getting candidates, you don't know who they are, they're getting into the system because of how they scored by playing a game. It's sort of hard to be biased around that. So yeah, that's popped up in my head.
Absolutely. Anything where we're doing facial recognition, like facial recognition video during interviews, you go like, that is not a mature technology today, and that has not been fully proven out as being free of bias.
It's scary, actually.
It's a little bit scary, and so I am a big proponent of AI. facial recognition is where a lot of people are creeped out by almost everything I'm saying. That's like the line where I start to get creeped out.
Do you know that I'm getting geeky. You know there is a tool, I want to say it's HireVue, it might not be HireVue, so if it's not, I don't know if it's HireVue or not. But it can look at the blood rushing under your face to see if you're flushing away, and it sort of acts like a pseudo lie detector in a way. So imagine a candidate is talking, and the HireVue, I keep saying HireVue, but I'm not sure it's actually HireVue, so I don't want to get in trouble, right? But the system's looking at you, and it's looking at where your blood is going under your face while it's looking at you, so like an infrared kind of thing. And it's picking up whether or not you're nervous when being asked certain questions, acting sort of like a pseudo lie detector in a way. Now, in one way that sounds kind of cool, but the other way is what if the guy's whoever's being interviewed is just nervous?
I mean, who's not nervous on an interview,
Yeah, and they're thinking about something
also,
else.
I'm an engineer. Like I have high anxiety, and
Yeah.
so like I mean, they put me in for my
So you
poly,
get
and as soon as I sit in the chair,
disqualified,
all the things start going like this.
And that's why you got to always have human judgment. You know, machines can do so much, but you should always have a human in the loop because you never know.
I was well said. I was going to say exactly the same thing. These are tools to complement and augment the work that you're doing to do it better, more effectively, faster, all of the good things that we're trying to do. I want to say, where am I on time?
Let's do one more question. I do want to make sure everybody gets a break, but I know that we started a little bit late, but we do have a break, so let's do one more question.
Sure.
I really encourage you all to utilize that.
I can do one more question, but I also wanted to give the audience an opportunity if there were any burning questions that you really had on your mind. Oh, yep, okay. Can we give a question to the gentleman back there? If you can introduce yourself too, that would be great.
Let's go, guys. My name is Benjamin. I got a question. I know recruiters are utilizing AI like crazy because it can save us a lot of time. But what's your thoughts on what the OFCCP is going to do in the future for government contracting with AI recruiting?
So,
I got a Scooby-Doo look like
ChatGPT, I need help with this answer.
yeah, where's ChatGPT where we need it? You know, we probably better bring out Claude and some of the others too.
What was the acronym that you?
OFCCP, just because she knows all about that. She and her, oh, there you are.
Yeah, you know me.
I don't think I certainly am not qualified.
It's the Office of Compliance. And
I'll attempt it. I'll
So is the
I'll try.
question about, just to make sure that we were all the same page on the question, can you just repeat it one more time?
What do you think the future of government contract recruiting, how the OFCCP is going to look at it? Because like at the moment right now, like they're starting to track that, I think they like recently put out some recommendations on how us government contractors actually do our hiring process and how we need to list and notify AI. Like, are we going to see like stuff in the future where AI can't be involved? Or, like, where do you see it going? Because I know government contracting is a completely different deal than, we'll say, commercial recruitment.
I think more regulations regarding AI are on the horizon. You already have examples of New York City Local Law 144 and two other laws that I'm blanking out on right now. Basically, what it says is that a government entity has to audit your hiring practices that involve AI, right? So it's going to come a time where everybody has AI systems throughout the recruiting process. Someone is going to audit it to see if it's fair. If your system is not fair, you'll be penalized in some way. And I think it's going to have a couple of effects. One, it's going to be a boom industry of companies saying, let me audit your company to protect you against evil regulators who want to fine you. Or companies are going to say, oh my, I don't want to get in potential trouble, so let me ease back on certain AI requirements. Or scale back on some AI tools because I don't want to be fined by the government for having a tool that's not fair. If that were to happen, I think a lot of vendors would say, well, we'll take on the responsibility of making sure that our tool is fair so that we can better sell it to you in the future. I think it's going to be a tug of war in that side. So either It's going to be a tug of war with vendors saying our stuff is fair, we can prove it, we don't want you to be sued, so we're going to make sure that our stuff is fair. And it's going to be a bonanza for lawyers who say, you didn't get the job? If you haven't gotten the job you want, how do you know it was you? How do you know it wasn't AI? Hire us and we will protect you. Better call Saul. We'll look out for you. Those are the things I think may happen. Comments?
Yeah, so, not exactly my area, but I will say the executive order on AI, the executive order 14110, it's 111 pages long. And it's going to spawn thousands of additional pages of follow-on regulations and legislation. And one of the criticisms that I think the AI community has is it's not clear that those things are going to keep up with the way the technology is developing. You're already seeing big tech sort of circumventing a lot of the restrictions that have been put in place. So I agree that we're in a highly regulated industry. Obviously, we have to comply with all of the laws and regulations that take place. To your point, Jim, I think it's going to be hard to keep up. I do think there are companies that will say, I'm sure there are companies that will say, we'll certify your processes for you. For example, Microsoft has come out and said, we can guarantee that Copilot is not plagiarizing and we'll defend you if it is. Yeah. That's a pretty bold statement for a company as large as Microsoft. I think you'll probably see various vendors popping up to do that. Probably we're all going to have compliance training in how to make sure that we comply with the inevitable regulations. But right now, I think the major concern, maybe two concerns, technology is moving faster than the regulations can keep up. The second concern is we can agree to this, but I mean, we've all seen the kids with the phone under the desk, right? So there's I got my system that's being monitored. This is my officially auditing system, and I got my personal phone off to the side, and I'm just there are a lot of people that I'm not one of the people that does that. I understand there are some people that do that. So it will be interesting to see what kind of off-the-books uses or certain tips and tricks evolve. I mean, we've got things where, we've read about candidates that have on the second monitor, they're putting the answer to the interview questions into ChatGPT, and they're kind of reading like this to give you the flawless answer for how they would answer that question. And so that is going to be a very tricky thing that evolves over the next couple of years, and it's going to be scary and exciting.
You can buy that service on the underground. Someone can interview for you in your place. Jim,
I have to tell you, since I'm mic'd up and in the public, I'm definitely not buying services on the underground of any kind. Definitely not doing that.
This is a whole nother we need to have a second panel.
That is a different kind of clearance jobs panel.
Yes.
Illegal activities panel, sponsored by Clearance Jobs.
I'm letting you guys, okay, so if you are recruiting somebody, make sure you pay close attention if you're looking at them on the computer, if you're doing it virtually. They have software now that you can, it'll capture it'll capture your face. I can be looking over here, but the AI will give you an image of me that's looking at the camera. So then I could be
it makes
reading.
Your eyes look at the camera.
I could be researching stuff, giving you the answer that I think you want based on some research. You swear I'm looking directly at you. There's technology out there.
And we're probably not far from, I put a deep fake over your face and someone else sits for the interview for you.
Yeah.
Right? Looks like me, they're answering the questions in my voice. That's probably a year or two away.
To be continued.
Yeah.
To be continued.
To be continued.
I'm sorry. I'm glad.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah.